Let me take you back to a pivotal moment in my childhood. I was 12 years old, and my mom had just started trusting me enough to be left home alone. This was a huge deal for me. We lived in this peaceful, incredibly safe little town, the kind of place with quiet streets, spacious yards, and friendly neighbors. It's a charming community where you never feel the need to look over your shoulder, which is exactly why my parents felt comfortable leaving me. I still live in that same house with them today. Now, the night in question was a weekend. My parents were heading out for the evening. When my sister and I were younger, our grandparents would watch us, but she wasn't home this time, and since I was finally old enough, they decided to trust me on my own. My parents had me young, so they've always been active, often traveling or going out with friends on the weekends. They even left me money for a pizza dinner. For a 12-year-old, this was the perfect night. The house to myself, video games, and pizza. I was obsessed with James Bond games, so I was deep into my third playthrough of Nightfire on my PS2. After finishing the game again, I decided to order the pizza from our family's go-to spot, a place called Gianni's right by our house. It's been closed for years now, but back then, it was our favorite. I ordered a regular pie. At that age, I could easily put away 3 slices by myself. My mom's instructions were simple. Wrap the leftovers in tin foil and put them in the fridge. I switched game discs to another Bond title, Agent Under Fire. I liked it less than Nightfire, but it was still good to pass the time while I waited. When the doorbell finally rang, I hurried downstairs with the $20 bill my parents left me. My mom told me to tip $4, and since the place was only 3 blocks away, it was a decent tip, especially for the time. The delivery driver was a guy who looked to be in his 30s, but he was a little rough around the edges with a long, gross beard. He wore glasses and a black trucker's hat. I handed him the 20 and asked for specific change. As he gave me the box and counted the money, he looked right at me, then passed me into the house and asked the question that froze me. "You alone here?" I knew it was a creepy, off-limits question. My parents taught me to be wary of strangers, so I blurted out, "My parents are on their way home." A stupid answer in retrospect. I should have just said no, but I knew why he was asking. There were no cars in the driveway, and a kid was answering the door. After he handed me the change, I shut the door, my heart starting to race. I ate my pizza in the kitchen, devoured my 3 slices, wrapped the rest up just like my mom said, and put them in the fridge before heading back upstairs to lose myself in Agent Under Fire. Hours slipped by as I played, and it was probably around 11 p.m. when the doorbell rang again. Thinking it was my parents, I rushed back downstairs and called out through the door, "Mom? Dad?" But an unfamiliar voice answered, "Hey, I need help." They said they needed to use a phone. My blood ran cold. I asked, "Who is this?" And he just repeated, "I just need to use a phone." I was too scared to even peek through the window. Common sense screamed at me that opening that door would be a horrible, horrible idea. As I started walking back up the stairs, which are directly in front of the front door, the man outside suddenly banged on the door, and I heard him say, "Wait, please. I need help." That meant he saw me. He was watching through the glass at the top of the door. I turned around, and though the porch was dark, I could see the outline of his head. I couldn't see his eyes, but I knew he was staring right back at me. I bolted upstairs and ran to my parents' room because that's where the only upstairs phone was. I immediately dialed my mom's cell number. I didn't have my dad's memorized back then. She picked up, likely after a few glasses of wine, but when I told her there was someone at the door asking to come in, her tone shifted instantly. She sobered up right then and there, her voice becoming loud and sharp with concern. She started rapid-firing questions. Had I answered him? Did I let him know I was home? I told the truth and said yes. Her tone grew more and more urgent. She asked if anyone could have known I was alone, and that's when I remembered the pizza guy. I told her about him, and right on cue, the doorbell rang 2 more times. I panicked, telling her the guy wouldn't leave. She ordered me to stay put in their room with the door locked. She said they were calling the police. She kept me on the line with her while my dad used his phone to call 911. They had to leave the restaurant to hear better. It was a summer night, and the windows were cracked open to let in air. Then, through my parents' window, I heard at the gate on the side of the house, leading to the backyard opening. It wasn't a loud, forceful sound. It was discreet, gentle. I told my mom, and she kept telling me to stay quiet, stay in the room, and keep the lights off. I whispered, "What if he tries getting in through the den window?" She told me to stop talking and just wait for the police. She kept feeding me updates on their ETA, reminding me to stay silent. I was starting to calm down just a tiny bit when I heard the unmistakable sound footsteps. Someone was inside the house, wandering around downstairs. I whispered this in a total panic to my mom, and I heard her scream something into the other phone to the police. Probably, "The man is inside the house. Hurry up." My mom told me to hide under the bed and wait. For my 12-year-old self, this was the most horrific, unreal moment of my life. The only thing making me feel remotely safe was that tiny lock on my parents' bedroom door. Then I heard the footsteps coming up the stairs. The stairs are near my sister's and my room down the hall. My parents' room is further down. The footsteps faded for a moment, I assume, as the intruder searched our bedrooms. My mom told me the police would force their way in and that I shouldn't move until they were inside. I heard the footsteps come back into the hallway, coming closer, until they reached the bedroom door. They tried pressing down the doorknob, but found it locked. They tried a few times, as if that would magically unlock it. Then came a light knocking, but the person on the other side didn't say a single word. They tried the doorknob one last time before I heard the footsteps walk back down the hallway, then down the stairs, fading away deeper into the house. Phone. Finally, my mom told me the police were there, but to stay put. I expected to hear them kick the door down, but instead, I suddenly heard multiple heavy footsteps and a man shouting my name, identifying himself as a police officer. I heard them coming up the stairs, and my mom gave me permission to answer and unlock the door. When I opened it, there were 2 officers upstairs and 2 more downstairs. They hadn't needed to kick the front door down because the back door was left completely ajar. The back sliding window was also wide open. That was his entry point. I had to talk with the police and tell them everything, including my suspicion about the pizza guy, with my parents listening on the phone. They were on their way home, and by the time they arrived, only 2 officers were still at the house. With the police report noting the pizza guy, they said they'd investigate. The next night, my parents took me to Gianni's Pizzeria and told me to point the guy out if I saw him. When I didn't, they asked the manager which employee matched the description I gave. He said that would be Phil, who was out on a delivery. After my parents explained the situation, the manager said, "There's no way that would be Phil," and asked us to leave. Long story short, my parents made a huge scene in the pizzeria, vowed to never give them business again, and then we waited in the car in the parking lot for almost an hour. Phil never showed up. My parents were convinced the manager had called or texted him, warning him not to come back. Who knows? They contacted a few lawyers, but no one would take the case due to a lack of solid evidence. They said it would be a waste of time. We never went back to that pizzeria, and it was a long, long time before my parents felt safe leaving me home alone again. To this day, I am convinced it was the pizza guy, or at least someone connected to him, because who else would have known I was home alone that night? Years later, when I was a teenager, my family moved from California to a secluded area in North Idaho. My parents had just retired and built their dream home deep in the backcountry. We had no neighbors in sight, just endless, dense forest that backed right up to national parkland and paper mill logging grounds. The house itself was massive, 2 stories, with a gym, a full bar and pool room, and a legitimate movie theater setup in the basement. It felt like the kind of remote, perfect house people dream of, or so we thought. I was dating my high school girlfriend at the time, and one night, while my parents were out on a date, I invited her over to hang out and watch a movie. We were completely alone. I cracked open a beer. I was underage, but figured no one would care, and we headed down to the movie room to watch Gladiator. Everything started out perfectly normal, but somewhere around the midpoint of the movie, close to midnight, something switched in me. Out of nowhere, I was hit with an overwhelming fight or flight feeling. It was like my body sensed a danger my brain couldn't yet see. My heart was pounding out of my chest, and I kept glancing at the uncovered windows behind us that looked out into the pitch-black woods. I didn't want to freak my girlfriend out, so I kept it to myself. In fact, things even got a little heated between us during the movie. But the entire time, I couldn't shake the intense, crawling feeling that we were being watched. I didn't know from where, but I knew. After the movie ended, I walked her upstairs and out to her car. The house was dead quiet again. She drove off, and as I turned to go back inside, I remembered I'd left all the lights on downstairs in the bar, pool room, and movie room. So I went back down. I turned off the movie room lights first, and then I paused. My eyes drifted to the large window that looked into the backyard. And that's when I saw him. A man. He looked homeless, wild hair, filthy clothes. But what froze me in place was his expression. He had the biggest, creepiest smile I've ever seen, with wide, staring eyes that looked absolutely deranged. And in his hand was a knife. He was gently tapping the blade on the glass, over and over. For a second, I thought I was hallucinating. I slowly backed away and moved to the barroom to shut off the rest of the lights. That room had a sliding glass door that also faced the woods. I flipped the switch and I watched in pure horror as the man calmly walked from the window to the door, still smiling, still staring. At this point, we were less than a foot apart with only the glass between us. He didn't try to get in. He didn't move. He just watched me. I went upstairs without a word. Right then, my parents were walking through the front door. I told them, I think I need to go to the psych ward or something. I swear I just saw a guy with a knife watching me outside. My mom went pale. My dad's eyes narrowed. And without saying a word, he went straight to the gun safe, grabbed his rifle, and stormed outside to check the property. I asked my mom what was going on, and she said, there have been a few break-ins in the area. A guy wandering through the woods trying to get into homes. The description you gave matches exactly. The police were called, but they found nothing. No signs of entry, no footprints, just cold, black woods. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. That night, as I tried to sleep, I could hear a light tapping sound beneath me. My bedroom was on the second floor, directly above the movie room. It sounded like metal gently tapping on glass. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. The tapping lasted for hours. This happened night after night for weeks. Sometimes it would stop. Sometimes I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and hear it faintly again. I even thought I heard footsteps on the roof one night. I checked the windows, but I never saw anyone. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being stalked, watched. Then winter came. My parents had to go out of town for a few days, but they were still nervous. Before they left, they gave me a shotgun just in case. We also had a big Rottweiler, the sweetest dog you'd ever meet, and totally silent unless something was really there. One night while I was home alone, I heard it. Slow, crunching footsteps in the snow outside. They were heavy and deliberate. The dog stood up, ears perked, and began to growl a low, deep, guttural sound before erupting into ferocious, non-stop barking. He only ever did that when he saw something real. I stayed silent. I didn't want whoever was out there to know I was home. I didn't move a muscle. Then came the knock. A slow, hollow, taunting knock. I didn't answer. I slept with the shotgun next to me that night, door locked, blinds drawn, dog at my feet. The next morning, I went outside and saw something that made my stomach drop. Footprints. Fresh human footprints circled the entire house. They stopped at every single window, like someone was trying to look inside, searching for a way in, searching for me. I followed the prints around the property, and they eventually led into the forest. I followed them for maybe half a mile before they started to zigzag, veer off, and loop back like whoever made them was trying to throw me off their trail. I turned back. Something deep inside told me it was a bad idea to keep going. That night, the tapping came back, louder this time. I knew it was him. I'd had enough. I unlocked my door, grabbed my shotgun, and stepped out onto the second-story deck. I flipped on the fog lights that illuminated the entire backyard. And there he was. The same man, the same smile, the same dead eyes. He was holding the knife again, staring directly at me like he could see right through me. I raised the shotgun and shouted, "If you don't leave, I'll put one right through you." He didn't move. He didn't flinch. He just stared, unblinking, grinning. I fired a warning shot into the air, and I finally got a reaction. He staggered a bit, then slowly backed into the woods, still facing me the entire time. That's when I decided to unleash the dog. I sprinted downstairs, threw open the sliding door, and let him loose. He bolted into the forest like a black missile, barking and snarling. I'd never seen him that aggressive. He had a shock collar on, so he couldn't go far. But I like to think he chased that guy off for good, because after that night, I never saw him again.